So, right from the loading, back to this one. Apologies for the delay in these, as I say in another one, because I'm recording two of these at the same time. I've been having some serious issues with my recording software. This one, not quite so much. The one that comes after it, though. And I actually forgot I had the video for this one in the can when I went ahead and did that and started doing it. So I would have had this out before I messed with that one, but then I forgot that I'd had it. So I apologize for that. So I'm going to end up releasing two of them pretty quick here. But this one we are going into the Nosferatu warnings beneath Prague. Getting a little bit ahead of ourselves with that one, but not by much. And I'll talk more about that when we get into it. But in this one, right at the moment, we're in talking to the Cainite Prince of Prague, Rudolf Brandl of Clan Ventru.
Very well.
You see where, Serena and everybody's are with us. So moving on to the next stage of this. This is our first go around with Serena in the coterie with us.
Has the prince no pity, no humanity, that he only bestows his knowledge for a price?
And I could have kept my mouth shut in this one, and you probably should, but yeah, Christoph, so I couldn't. He had to run his mouth.
Speaking in our presence, we allowed thy mistress to make thee, and we can unmake thee with a word.
Sorry, it's been a long day. I'm very thirsty.
Because
you'll hear me chugging a few cans during the course of this of undisclosed liquid.
And may yet be useful to us. He shall yet retain his freedom, but only if he henceforth silences his impertinent Bruges tongue.
He's got an interesting character design. I don't know what that armor is supposed to be, because, like, brass or gold armor, the medieval period really isn't going to do that much unless it's, like, gold-plated steel, gilded, I don't know, but just looks weird. I think I missed a little bit of the, what do you call it, dialogue between Christoph and Serena after we picked her up, but it's basically just conversational stuff. It's really not anything all that important. It's just, learning a little bit about her character and her and Christoph just kind of discussing things. Not really plot important, so I'm pretty sure I did. I think I might have run into the issue I did in the other video that I'll mention in that one, where the film recorder cut out early on me, or as happened in that one, the other one that I'm recording today, which didn't happen in this one or any previous one so far. When I loaded into a new stage of the mission, you go through one of those doors and load the next area. For some reason, it stopped recording the audio when I did that, so a little odd. But just for sake of simplicity, I decided for this one not to cut down all of the running around that I do between these missions, selling things and buying new things and getting equipment and everything else. Going forward, for the most part, I'm going to be cutting these out. But I honestly wanted to leave this in just to, when I mention, because when I do cut something out, I mention that I cut it out. I don't pretend, it's, I was all neat and clean, I didn't go anywhere, this is all with the same stuff. No. But at the same time, I kind of wanted to show how much of it I have to go through, how long it takes with the interface and all the mess of this. I've shown it a little bit, but I wanted to show really what it's like to go through and figure things out and why I cut it out. So it's in this one, which, even with all this video is less than an hour long, so I really wasn't that worried about cutting it out. Whereas some of the other ones I've done, even with them cut down, they're still an hour or so. So I just said, this one's not really that long, even with all the back and forth we do. So I'm not going to cut it out. If I cut out all the back and forth of this, because you do have to do a bunch of back and forthing at some point for the quest, not even counting selling and getting rid of things. it would probably cut 15 minutes out of this, and we'd be looking at a 30 to 35 minute long video, which going forward, if that happens, I'll do that. But in this one, I just kind of wanted to show you what exactly I'm cutting out and how much it shortens it by cutting that out. Because I feel like just saying I cut stuff out and saying how much it cut out really doesn't give you the real impression of how long this game can take if you are going and doing all of the back and forthing that the game expects you to do. And just wanted to show that it's not that I'm not doing it, I'm just cutting it out for the sake of brevity. This is kind of an interesting cemetery design. It's very small for a medieval city, but at the same time it's very cramped and cluttered the way a medieval graveyard would be. I mean, some of these municipalities and stuff, maybe not so much in Prague, but in some other places, like they had, by law, you could only leave a body in the ground for a certain amount of time. Then it was taken out and the grave plot reused because the populations were just, A, so big and died so frequently that you needed the space. That's where you get the ossuaries and the catacombs full of remains and things like that in some of the larger European cities is from them being constantly relocated out of the proper cemeteries.
Prague is now defenseless before the fiends who steal innocence.
This character that we're talking to right now, this is Joseph Sve, who is the... Well, in modern nights, he would be considered the Primogen, but he is pretty much the head of the Nosferatu clan in the city of Prague here. Within the lore of the game, the established, like, the novels and the source books and things like that, he is actually a known character outside of this game, as is Prince Brandel. Both of them remain in Prague well into the 20th century. And I forget, well, at least Joseph does. I forget exactly when. At some point, Joseph gets fed up with Brandel. Might even be pretty close to the second part of this that I'm going to say. But at some point, he uses his tunnels to get into his guarded and defended haven and kills him, basically in his sleep. I think he does it during the day. But he does that, and then if I remember right, because it's been a long time since I read the book that it's mentioned in, the last time he's seen, and it is assumed that it is his ultimate final death, is obviously, as you can kind of infer from what he's talking about, he is very loyal to the Jewish community. He may not himself be Jewish, although he probably is with that name. But he is very protective of the Jewish community in Prague, and that remains. In World War II, I think it's toward the end of the war when the Soviets are advancing into the Czech Republic, or Czechoslovakia it would be at the time. The last he is seen is brandishing a flamethrower and going off to kill the Nazis from the Jewish ghetto of Prague, which, if I remember right historically, is actually this where we are now, just, 800 years later, or 700 years later, whatever it is. This is the 1200s, so. But yeah, he exists for quite a while and is quite powerful and well regarded. I can't remember when it is that he does kill Brandel. It might be during World War II, because Brandel, maybe, if I remember right, might have collaborated. Because in a lot of these cities, in the medieval time, the vampires are the ones that really run things, and they just let the mortals think they're in charge. By the 20th century, even though a lot of them wouldn't admit it, it is the mortals who run things, and the vampires are just kind of there to leech off of what is left of, power and authority. Among themselves, the elders have power, but in the mortal world, the mortals are really running things themselves. Much, much, much more than any medieval vampire would have ever understood.
I do give thee a goblet of my blood.
I think this is funny too, because he says, a Canaanite elder of beautiful visage. And if you remember from the embrace scene, her face is not all that beautiful. It's pretty badly torn up and mangled.
Disobey me, child.
Yeah, I couldn't remember. I clicked on that. I couldn't remember if she said anything else. So I'm gonna read the letter here from Aneska, and then I click on her again because I wasn't sure if that might have triggered something else she might have said.
And I fear thou hast been swallowed by the creatures that rule the night. But dread shall not rule my heart. I
didn't
am
know if
resolved
maybe that
to
led
renounce
to
my holy
another
orders and walk the face of the earth
argument
until I
thing you
unite
could
with
have
thee.
with her or something.
And if thou turneth thy face from me, I shall search for such panacea as will restore thy soul and bring the rose to thy fair cheek.
You also
again.
see, I'll mention in the other one, look in the top right corner there where my finances are at right now. I mentioned in the other one too to look up there and see with all the stuff I'm collecting and selling and everything else, even buying like the best stuff I can get from my characters and bypassing a lot of things I could be picking up and taking with me. I am still, if not making money, maintaining where I was at from all of the crap I had and sold earlier. So, yeah, if you're smart and you're not constantly going through your stuff, save up money for when you can get the good armor and weapons and things like that, and aren't like blowing money on magical stuff like scrolls and all these other things that you could be buying and you don't know shop. Finances are really not a problem in this game. Like, literally, I think I'm still using the sword I started the game with, and I think I might have upgraded the shield at one point. And, I've upgraded the armor on Willem, and since then I've also obviously given armor to Serena because she didn't start with any, and I gave her a weapon and a simple shield because she doesn't have very high strength. That's the best she can carry. But Willem's still carrying the weapon he started with, and Serena is in very simple weapons and shield, both of which I think are things, if I didn't have them to give to her already, they were things I have salvaged in the past, so I could have just held on to them and given to her. But I just think I didn't want to lug them around, so I sold them. But yeah, you find enough stuff in this game, and it is random. You can't rely on finding stuff that I'm finding in this if you're looking at it, but you can really do quite well for yourself.
It is lovely. Most lovely.
Without having to resort to, having a character go naked so somebody else is carrying better stuff, or having somebody with a useless weapon so you can carry a good one. Alright, now we are about to enter the Nosferatu Warrens proper. And you're also about to see one of the reasons that the other Canaanites are leery and even terrified of the Nosferatu, or the Nazis as I like to call them. There it is right there. They have the discipline known as obfuscate, which kind of literally means to hide oneself. They can, in the game mechanic of this, and more or less in the real game, although it's kind of simplified visually in this, they have the ability to basically, almost like the Shadow from the old radio serials, to cloud your mind to where you can't see them. For all intents and purposes, they go invisible. They don't actually disappear. They just basically have the ability to convince you that they're not there, so you don't see them. Like, they still show up on camera and things like that, but the human eye, your perception does not acknowledge that they're there. Which, I mean, you can bump into them, and as you can see, when they attack you, come in contact with you, then you notice they're there, and you will be able to see them. But if they stand still or stay at a distance and leave you alone, you will then not be able to see them.
Stand thy ground.
So I'm waiting for them to try. There we go. So I think. Nope. Oh, yeah, she can take that. So I was able to upgrade her shield as I was talking. You can find some good stuff. But the Nosferatu are very interesting in the excuse me, because of their appearance. If you recognize the name and you think of the 1920 1920s German silent film Nosferatu. That's where the clan name comes from. Although in universe, the movie is named after them. In reality, obviously, they're named after the movie. They have that appearance, that like horrific, almost rat-like and diseased and horrible look to them. That is a curse of their clan. Even if you are an extremely beautiful person who is embraced into Clan Nosferatu, you will very shortly, over the course of the first few days after your embrace, will undergo a horrible transformation and turn into a monstrosity like them. The other clans hate them and fear them, as somebody in I think one of the novels pointed out, quite possibly because they look like the monsters they are, whereas the other kindred Canaanites try to pretend they're not really monsters. They try to hide it through a veneer of civility and beauty and everything, where the Nosferatu, what you see is what you get. Although, ironically, they also can tend to be some of the more civil and polite vampires. Like, just because they look like horrific monsters doesn't mean they always act like horrific monsters. But they just have that appearance of just the horrible old world monstrosity walking corpse that they are. In this time period, because of that, they are so outcast and so looked down upon. They're what's considered a low clan at this time. Many of their those they embrace are from minority groups like the Jews and things like that, because they're also they see them as kind of kindred spirit, because they're also looked down upon by society and treated like crap. They also tend to embrace things like lepers and cripples and people with other horrible diseases, because they've already kind of have a head start on the transformation that they will undergo. And so to them, it might not seem so bad. Because that's one thing with the Nosferatu is, when you're first embraced, coming to terms with the monster you've turned into. If you were already treated as a monster by society around you, it's a little easier to make the transition. So that's one of the reasons that they do embrace the way they do. They also, as you see here, kind of alluded toward, although doesn't really look like it in this one, they make their havens, even into the modern night, they very much tend to make their havens in places like sewers and catacombs and like this, underground areas they take as their own, partly because no one else wants them in their area, and partly because, everybody else has already claimed the good, so they claim these areas and make them their own. Like, they basically, if you don't want us up top, look what we can do with what you leave us, and they will sometimes make these into just absolutely incredible tunnel complexes and underground cities, basically, just to kind of thumb their nose and stick their middle finger up at those that live, above them, both metaphorically and physically, to say, look what we could do if you'd let us. Look what we did with this place nobody else wants. So, I'm not a huge fan of the Nosferatu, but I don't dislike them either. There are clans that I hate. The Nosferatu I do not hate. I've played with some players that played very good Nosferatu characters. They're just not one that I really like. Part of that might come from the fact that I just don't... dumb as it sounds, me being into vampire lore and mythology and history and things, the whole thing about Nosferatu supposedly being an ancient German or Romanian name for vampires and the undead and all that, it is not. It was pretty much made up for a book that was then used as a source of information on vampire and Eastern European mythology by later authors, called The Land Beyond the Forest, which the Beyond the Forest is literally Transylvania. That's what it's talking about. And it was written by, I believe she was either English or German, whose husband was serving as an officer in the Austro-Hungarian army, serving in Transylvania, because that was an area they occupied through Hungary. And she, wrote supposedly a true account of her time there and her encounters with local things and the mythology and stories and all that. And one of the things that it has since been proven that she probably completely made up was the she talked a little bit about vampires and said they were referred to as Nosferatu or the undead, which does not appear in either German or Romanian or Hungarian, any of the local languages before this book came out, and is not even close to any of the words that those languages use. In fact, in Romanian, the one that most people assume is she's referring to, their mythology for vampires, depending on what type of vampire they are, they call them either strigoi or moroi. Not even close to the word Nosferatu. So where the hell she got that or where it came from, no one knows. There have been some researchers that have said, oh, we have found mentions of it or very similar words in older books. But anytime anybody else has looked at those, they've said, no, that's a misinterpretation of something that's not actually in that book. They're wrong. So I don't know where she got it, where it came from, but it has since entered the popular mythology and language, basically, as, another thing for vampire, strigoi, moroi. What are some of the other ones? Naxer in Germany, Upir or Umpir in the Slavic. Actually, I think the closest of the Slavic ones to the actual word vampire, I think, is actually Ukrainian. I think they call them vampir or vumpir or something like that, which is very close. It's upir or umpir in Polish, which is close to Germany, so you can see how they might have been aware of that word. The word vampire, as we know it, was actually introduced in the 18th century by English writers as either misspelling or mistranslation of the word umpir. It happens. English likes to do that with other languages' words. But basically, in terms of mythology and folklore, the word vampire does not exist. They're always referred to as something else locally. Nowadays, vampire just, means blood-drinking undead. But thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Sorry about that. I went on a bit of a tangent there. I tend to do that sometimes when I get on a topic, but I've been into this stuff since that's why I got into these games, is because I grew up loving vampires and the old horror movies, and I read the Unabridged Dracula when I was like 10, so yeah, this has always been something that's been a part of my interests. And I love medieval and history, so games like this where you get to play a vampire in the medieval time, is right in my wheelhouse. So I very much love the whole, as much as I'm not a Christian, and I'm definitely not militant Catholic, I like the idea and the history of the holy military orders and stuff, like the Templars and the Teutonic Knights and all that. So, these games where you basically get to play a dark, twisted version of that history have always appealed and interested me. Show yourself, you glowing bastard. There he is. Time for another undisclosed fizzy beverage. Hey, at least you're not listening to me smoke in this one. You will be in the next one. Because I'm recording these out of order, so I already know what I said and did for that one. Yeah, I had this one in the queue and somehow completely missed it to do the voiceover for it when I sat down to do them today. So I was like, I know I had two, but I can only find one, and this was somehow buried. So getting to it out of order, but they'll be aired in or put up in order. They're just not being recorded in order. And as I mentioned in the other one, this is, and when I'm doing this, and hopefully when they'll be going up, is the Thanksgiving long weekend. And other than having a reenactment event that I'm going to at the local Revolutionary War site where they do a holiday open house, I'm going to be going there with my kids and stuff. It's where my ex-wife works and where I used to volunteer for a long time. So I'm going to be going to help out with that. Other than that, I really have absolutely nothing going on for the Thanksgiving holiday, and Christmas and New Year's will probably be pretty much the same other than having my kids for a while. I don't really do holidays. I'm I'm a divorced single guy. My kids don't live with me, and I don't really have any friends, so I don't really do anything. Don't even talk to one whole side of my family and barely talk to the other. So don't really have a busy holiday schedule. So instead, I'm gaming and working on projects to give myself something to do. I very much am happy I'm not at work. I'm enjoying the time off. I'm just kind of at a loss for things to do besides do some gaming and make some of my videos. I think after I watch this, or after I record this and get ready to settle in for the night, I think I'm going to start watching a Gundam series that I have not seen before. If you've seen on my channel, I've done a few videos about Gundam. That's something I very much like. Not like obsessed with it or anything. There are people that know far, far more about it than I do. But it is something that I've been into for a long time and have opinions on. And I got thinking, and then I went through the streaming services and realized that there are a couple of the series that I have not seen and actually do kind of want to watch. And one of the videos I did that actually got a lot of views and a lot of feedback and got me new followers, not doing it just because of that, but it's like, oh, hey, this is something people actually enjoyed, was I did a review of Requiem for Vengeance, the new Netflix Gundam series, which is set in the one-year war, Principality of Zeon, Federation, and all that. And I very much love that. And it dawned on me there are stories there that I have never seen before. And one of them that I wanted to see is available on Amazon Prime, which I have. So I said, you know what? I think I will sit and watch that and actually do a review of something having seen it for the first time like I did with Requiem for Vengeance. It's not something where I'm talking about a show that I have watched, years ago and am now going back and revisiting. This is, my fresh take on it. So I'm going to do that this weekend as well. Keep myself occupied, give myself something to do. Beats sitting around drinking and smoking and doing nothing else productive with my time. I don't know why I'm picking every single thing I come across up in this one. Other than I'm just looking at stocking up my money. It could be that. Here we go. See, I have a high enough perception that I could see that in the wall, but I can't open it unless I can actively see it with heightened senses. So, animalism, not real useful, but a discipline is a discipline. The shriveled eye, I know what this is, but it doesn't do what I thought it would do. You'll see me equip it here. And when you carry it in your hand, it basically gives you the Protean power, Eyes of the Beast, which lets you see in the dark and everything else, which you can see. I can see a little bit better. The shadows aren't quite so dark. Things are brighter a little bit and illuminated. But I thought that would give me the ability to see them when they're invisible, which you would think in this that would be something that would happen, but no. So I carry it for a while, and then I get rid of it, and then I end up eventually just putting it in my storage back in the Haven. It was, I would have sworn it let you see them, but I was mistaken. Now, the Scroll of Heightened Senses does. I thought that did the same thing. I mean, no, it's not the same power, but I thought it had more or less the same effect, but I was wrong. And once again, as I point out in so many of these sections, both before and after this one, we kill more vampires in here than realistically this city's population could ever hope to support, but video game. It do be like that sometimes. Yeah, almost all of these scrolls end up getting sold in Yunona's shop after this mission's over. Boy, they really like fucking with Willem. Look at how low his health is getting and his frenzy rating keeps going up from the damage it's taking. They really like messing with him. Maybe they don't like, you know, the blonde-haired German guy. I like, too, that you're not just holding that eyeball. Your hand basically turns into a glowing eyeball.
To the abyss with thee.
Which is weird, but interesting. Also very reminiscent of something that pops up in the modern clan novels set around the turn of the century, but I ain't going to get into that, because that's a whole different animal. Let's just say it does not end well for the guy who picks it up. I probably could have opened those, but I'm getting a little tired of picking things up, if I remember right from when I played this. Which is my own fault for having picked so many things up, but... Nope, I go back. Because I'm a glutton for punishment. Ooh, gauntlets. We are getting closer to the end of this. There's also a long scene with Brandel at the end of this. Which, if you see the next video that comes after this one, when I say I think I missed some stuff at the start of this, it's at the end of this one. I was thinking I had cut it out to do it separately at the beginning of that one, but I didn't. So I'm just going to leave it at the end of this. I'd have sworn I did. Maybe when I cleaned some files, I accidentally deleted it, or maybe it just didn't save because my video editing software is a little weird sometimes. But either way, it's getting its way in here. No, it's not lost. So we're getting close to the end of this. I go back to pick up the coins and stuff, but we'll point something out when we get past it up there. Hey, Vitae.
The hunger is upon me, and I must feed
Yes,
the
yes.
precious blood from
Feed
my
from the
body
hand,
to
not
sustain
holding the giant glowing eyeball. Smart man. I'm also a bit rambly because I'm very overtired. I don't know what it is this week. I have not slept for shit at all this week. I have felt absolutely exhausted and drained every day this week. Very happy I have basically an extra 2.5 days off because the way my work schedule is, I only work a 35-hour week, and by 11, 12 o'clock yesterday, I was at the end of my hours with the, preset holidays. This here, see this stairwell going up here? We will be going back up that later. That goes right back up to Golden Lane and comes out next to where we're going in our next little foray in this game. Which is kind of funny that this is right under that building, which also has a long underground thing that we go into. But, again, video game logic. Apparently at some point that passes right through the middle of this and somehow doesn't interfere with it, but whatever. Alright, so he says the path of Cain is the way forward. And you're about to see some excerpts from the Book of Nod. Those little icons above the door, I do goof it up because in the current version of the game, originally you could look up so you could see them. Now in more recent versions you can't, so it can be a little hard to see them to keep track of where exactly you're going. But basically you follow the path of Cain, quote unquote, which is following his life story as laid out in the icons. Which starts with him being cast out from the Garden of Eden, and not necessarily with this, but the actual path of Cain as it is in the book. He's cast out from the Garden of Eden. While he's wandering in the land of Enoch, he meets Lilith, who awakens him to his dark power and all that. And then he goes on eventually to create progeny and establish what becomes the city of. I'm sorry, he wanders in the land of Nod, establishes the city of Enoch after he creates some progeny. I somehow got those two backwards. Whatever. Not like I haven't been reading this shit for 30 years. That being that's the three faces. There are the first three that he created. His first three childer. He then goes on to create later on withdraws himself from the vampire society and everything else. And, they go on to make more. The next generation becomes the foundation of the 13 clans. After the flood, and da-da-da-da-da, everything spreads out. And I went wrong because you go right back to the start if you screw up. So it's basically, if you know the story or have, you can go through and figure it out from what's on the pillars, is trying to figure out, by looking at the icons at the top of these, which one am I supposed to go to first? Which one represents which? Which order are they supposed to be in? And if you don't know and you're just trying to figure it out by process of elimination, I literally watched somebody once spend about an hour wandering around through this. And it was frustrating and hilarious at the same time. Yeah, there's the three. He's cast out. He meets Lilith. He creates the three progeny. And as I said, you can't look up and see those things. And then it continues the story, the deluge, or the great flood, and all that. That's the 13 that existed before the flood in the great city are what is known as the antediluvians, or the ones from before the flood, antediluvian.
And leaving his progeny.
That's where that comes from. It's, as I said in an earlier one, very, very, very heavily influenced by Judeo-Christian mythology, but at least it's familiar enough to most people in the West that it's not completely alien with the mythology. It's based on something most of them, to a certain level, will have at least some familiarity with. Even if you're not Jewish, Christian, or Muslim, just through popular culture, you're aware enough of these concepts to understand what it is that it's set in and what the basis of it is. You don't need to be well-versed in, before Exodus and into Genesis and everything else to know who Cain is and yada yada and all that. He's the son of Adam and Eve who committed the first murder by killing his brother because he was commanded to sacrifice, that which he loved most, and decided, well, I love my brother, so I'm going to kill him. Or at least that's how the vampires put it. He was told to sacrifice that which he loved most, and he loved his brother most, so he sacrificed his brother.
And the children slew their parents.
The Bible obviously
the rebels then built a new city
how the vampires
and brought to it 13 tribes. It was a beautiful city, and its people worshipped them as gods. They created new progeny of their own, the 4th generation of Cainites. But they feared the jihad, and it was forbidden for those children to create others of their kind.
And even in, vampires, that is itself in the, lore and mythology of Vampire the Masquerade and the World of Darkness, even that is not,
it slowly
either
began to die.
Flat out stated or widely, universally accepted as fact. It is just the most commonly accepted origin myth for
all
the
were
vampires.
free to create their own broods.
There's a lot of circumstantial evidence that it is true, at least for the vampires of the West, but it's not, 100%. This is what happened. This is their version and explanation of how they believe it happened. That is not the way to go. Come on. I hate the way that... Get out of my damn way! Finally. Alright, we're out. I've had times that I swear it's different. I know it's probably realistically not, but I swear every time I play this, they're a different layout. Because I've had times I get through that, like 1, 2, 3, 4, no issues, and I've had times I wander in there for 20 minutes. And I get increasingly frustrated because I'm not trying to wander. I'm pretty sure I know where I'm going, and I'm trying to do it right, and yet I can't seem to find the right order. We're getting close to running out of Nosferatu to kill. I find it funny that Joseph lets you in there, and then you never have any issues with him for killing so many of his clan members when you go in here. You'd think he'd be a little upset about that. He's guarding the tunnels. He lets in these strangers because they, meet his requirement, and they go on to basically annihilate his clan in one fell swoop, and he doesn't seem to have a problem with this. I mean, he sticks around in the lore and everything, but... Come on.
Return to me.
Return unto me. I mean, it's better than come unto me. Giggity. I think I just gave up on that. Most of the switches, when you push them, you can see or hear something happen to let you know it's activated. Nothing happened with that one. But I do know, just in retrospect, it did work, because I got what it is. It's the bars for that little corner alcove there. Not that it's anything all that important or great that was in there, but hey, free stuff is free stuff. Yeah, I'm running out of places to put things, but that eye is useless. Back into the storage you go, and I don't think I ever use it again. Or at least not up to this point of the playthrough. Where I'm at, I should say, not where we're at watching now. I can see the giant rats in this area. The random things hidden behind the stone sarcophagi is a little odd, but whatever. Stop using potence. You do not need it to kill a big rat. Okay, this that's coming up, I'm surprised how quickly and easily this goes.
The repose of the dead.
One who prizes the living over the dead.
Thou hast entered the halls of King Vaclav the First.
And we're getting close to the
Thy
end.
canine flesh must be unraveled from thy canine bones, that thou may enter the halls of the dead, naked of all but thy canine spirit.
Oh.
To the abyss with thee!
Behold this stuff.
Yeah, I remember this fight taking a lot longer and requiring special stuff, but I'm not going to question it. Like, I remember you had to really rely on Willem's Claws of the Beast, I think he has at this point, because you can't really kill a ghost with mortal weapons, but somehow we did, so okay. And now we're in here to get this, and that's pretty much the end of that, and then we backtrack and find our way out. At least this time we managed to find a shortcut out. We don't have to backtrack our whole way out of this dungeon. And managed to clip into the door because this game's weird like that. So close the door, free ourselves. Wish I could go out that way. I'd like to see what happened if we emerged inside this church, but whatever. Maybe he'd find another nun to obsess over. And as you'll see in the coming one, he's not the only one. The coming one, you run into a guy who, you think you've got some hyperfixation issues. Ooh. At least Kristoff's a lot less creepy about it, let's put it that way. And it's obviously, reciprocated, which helps. You're not lustfully pining for somebody who doesn't know he exists or finds him disgusting. She's just as into him, which is a nice thing. But one coming up in the next one that, he deserves the horrible thing that you do to him. Just to say, kill him.
The path of Cain
I wasn't sure if
is
he
the...
said something else on the way out. Maybe imparted some other wisdom. Then we come up, and that little stairwell I showed you is right here, and we're gonna pop out without having to go through all of that and back out through the cemetery. Hooray! And we are now back out on Golden Lane. There's Unorna's shop right there. Or if I was smart, I would have stopped in and unloaded my crap now, but I didn't. So now we go back in and talk to Brandel again. I'm going to sign off now and say thank you for watching. If you want to or have the chance, please give a like and subscribe. It does help.
Behold the reliquary with the arm of St. George. I pray thee, tell us of those that are missing.
Yes, thou hast done well. We shall tell thee a tale to curdle thy blood. Thy absent friends and vanished allies now dwell in Vienna, at the chantry of the damnable clan Tremere. They abduct mortals and turn them into ghouls, that they may have foot soldiers in their bloody war against the Tzimisce. But now the Tremere have undertaken to abduct their fellow vampires in violation of all Cainite law. They conjoin the flesh of many vampires to create demonic gargoyles to fight the Tzimisce. Such are the ways of those that did once plunder the power of Cain by committing an unspeakable act upon a grandchild of Cain.
Where have they taken the slaves?
We know not, but our spies have ferreted out their slave master. His name is Ardan, and he dwelleth in a secret Tremere chantry hidden within an alchemist's shop in Golden Lane.
We seek thy princely permission to attack him and liberate such slaves as he has taken.
Such dispensation I do not give lightly, for we of Clan Ventru have lately joined in an alliance with the Tremere. We do use the Tremere for our own ends against the hated Tzimisce clan. Yet for their crimes against my city, the Tremere must pay a debt of blood. We do bestow our princely dispensation upon thee. Thou mayst assault Arden's chantry and liberate such Cainite slaves as he has taken.
I thank my lord.
Now go,